Today is Yud Zayin Sivan and Tashin Samech Tes. We're in Hemshik Samech Tes from the Rebbe Rashab on Amid Lamed Zayin.
Sort of the union of Nisuch Hamayim, Shebechag Sukkos, was a very high union, which it came v'hemshech to the tshuva mi'uncha deliva that there was on Yom Kippurim, and that was the onon that was seen on the Kaperas inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim, when the Kohen Gadol went in with the Keteras, and we saw that the Keteras of Yom Kippurim was a very high bira and bittul in the Sitra Achra, the Yud Aleph Samamonim, the Yud Aleph Kishorim of the Klippos, Mizbar and Afil Mizbater al Yedei the Al-Yedei the Aveda, the Keteras in the Kodesh HaKadoshim. And we saw that the Inyan from Nisuch Hamayim are a hemshech from that whole Inyan. And we saw that Amshoch HaZeis, the B'Yom Kippurim, HaGilui Mizeh, is in the Inyan from Chag HaSukkos, Shezeh Inyan Ba'Keser Le'yim Chagen. We already touched that out in the last year. The infant Kes is referring to the Pasuk in Tilim, which talks about the infant Tkiyah Shefer, Ba'Keser L'Yem Ba'Geino. Near the Meforshim teach that the word Keser, even though it's got different pirushim, but the word Keser from Rosh Kisui, the Magen Avraham and Shulchan Aruch teaches say that everything on Rosh Hashanah is in a form of Kisui, and Helem, and on Yom Kippurim it begins to become Begolui, but it doesn't completely become Yered Lamata Ad Kedikach. It's all prepared to come Dayan Lamayla, and then on Yom Chageinu, what that's the Inyan HaSukkos, from the Keset comes out into Yom, which is Gilui, Al Yedei Chageinu, which is the Inyan from Chag HaSukkos. And what's Chag HaSukkos called Chageinu Davke, Al Chag, because even though during the 7 days of Sukkot they were makrif in the Korbanos in the Beis Hamikdash Shivim Porim, and they were connected or parallel to the Shivim Umets, as is well known. But the ultimate kavanah and the tachlis is that the Pnimis HaShefa should be Nimshat Dafkele Yisrael, and that's in the finality of the whole Chag in Shmini Atzeres. But also it's Nimshach al Yedei the Inyan of the Nisuch Hamayim that we see here in the Maimah, and therefore it's called Ba'Keser on Rosh Hashanah, and eventually becomes Yom Gilui Chageinu in our Chag of the Inyan of Sukkos. Zehu Inyan Nisuch Hamayim Shebechag HaSukkos. But that Inyan that it becomes Nimshach Begolui from the highest Madrege in Keser that we reach on Yom Kippurim. That is in the Inyan of the Nisuch Hamayim Davke. The Hinei Mayim v'Yayin Heim b'Chinas Chokma v'Bina, as is well known. The Mayim is the Inyan from Chokma, and Bina is the Inyan of Yayin v'Mayim. Bina is the Inyan of Yayin, and Mayim is the Inyan of Chokma. And the reason being that Bina is a Inyan from Tam. It's a Inyan from Hislavas. We see that when the mensch understands, then his mind begins to function Beribui Hislavas, but it's a Hislavas Shel Tam, but it's the Inyan of Yayin. Mashinkin Chokma is a Inyan from Bitul, and there it's compared to water, because water is Beli Tam, and also it's a Inyan from Bitul. Water is mispatel kilo and kleptach into the goof that it touches, but it's not a inyan which is poil of Zayislavas and a shikrus like the inyan of wine. So therefore, the hefresh beinayim yadua da bina hu aim habonim, Bechinas Mokeh HaKorev El Amidas. Ma'ashenchen Bechinas Chochma. What's the difference between Mayim and Yain, or between Chochma and Bina? Bina is called Aim Habonim, as the Pasuk has it in Tilim, Aim Habonim Smecha. The mother of the sons is Daki and Arivim from Simcha, because the whole union of Aim is to produce Bonim, to produce son. And therefore the union of Bina being the union from Moichin, or its union is to produce the union of Bonim, which are the Midas. And they're called Bonim because they literally are born out from the Bina. Even though the emes is that the Mokeh of the Midas is L'mayla Mi'al Moichin. You can't really say that the Moichin actually produce the union of the Midas. The Midas have their shorosh in the Nefesh L'mayla. However, why do we say that Bina gives birth to the Midas? Because if it weren't for the function of Bina, then there wouldn't be any Gilui of the Midas. They would remain Vehelem, Godel in the Atzmis HaNefesh. And what actually guides the Midas to come out, Lidei Gilui, is the union from Bina. And therefore we see that only when it mentions Mizbeinen, Be'ezi Inyan, Eloki, that then he's shy to have Midas. So if he's not Mizbeinen, then he doesn't really have Midas, Kavavur, Betania, Bariches. That's the Inyan of Bina, is that Shorish in Moichin for the Midas, because it's the direct Mokeh, and the Mokeh HaKorev in the Inyan Moichin, that alidei usage of the Moichin in a form of Mizbonans, which is Bina, then you produce the Inyan of the Midas, and they become born out, and Bizkala, alidei, the famous process, which is mentioned in many places, and so well, it's the union of the Yerida Derek Meita Hagoren and the Ispastas of the Midas. After the Yerida Samuchin and Meita Hagoren, for the whole Riches HaInyan. However, that's the way it is, that Bina produces the Inyan of the Midas. And therefore it's called a Mokeh HaKorev. Ma'ashenkim B'chinas HaChochma. We see the Chochma is an Akuda Bilvad. It's Avodas Adam. The Inyan from Chochma is only one Akuda. And that's because the immediate Inyan from Chochma is even L'mayla Mi'an Akuda, and that's the Inyan from Bitul Gomor. And the Inyan from only sensing the Inyan of the Asogah in a very high level of Klolius, of a not L'chera, a Inyan of Isbonanus or thought, a Barichas in the Inyan, but only Gilui Achmi of the Inyan in the form of an Akuda or even L'mayla Mi'an Akuda. And therefore, even though the Inyan for Chochma is ultimately also a Mokeh for the Inyan for Midas, because if you don't have Chochma, then you don't have Bina. So ultimately the Inyan for Chochma is also, but it's called a Inyan for Richuk. It's not a Inyan for Kiruv. It's not felt by the Midas, and the Midas are not aware of the Ashpah of Chochma, and the truth is that Chochma is not mashpir to them in a form of closeness. It's only a Mokeh for that which is mashpir to them. In other words, it's a Mokeh for Bina, of it's not the Inyan of the Etzem Ashpah in the Midas itself. So therefore he said, Ma'ashenkim B'chinas HaChochma, Agam Shi Gam Kein Mokeh HaMidas. The truth of the matter is, that if not for the Inyan HaChochma, then it wouldn't be the Gilui of the Midas. When we say Mokeh, we mean the Gilui. Mikol Mokim Hu B'chinas Richuk, it's in a form of distance from the Midas, and it's what you might call a mudal from them, even though the actual Hasogah begins in Chochma, and it's the Hasogah that leads to the Midas. However, Legabi, the Etzem Gilui and the Etzem feeling of the Midas themselves, then it's not B'chinas Kiruv to them, nor it's a Inyan from Richuk. And therefore, that Richuk causes them, the Inyan from Chochma, not to be begolui in the normal function of the Midas of the Odom. However, there is an Inyan eventually to bring the Inyan from Chochma into the Inyan of Midas, and that's what we'll soon see here. Or that's to bring a Bitul into the Midas. Instead of developing the Midas and making them come out begolui, it's Mevatel, the Yeshus of the Midas, and turns them into Bitul Dike Midas of Midas, the whole in is bittel to the Rebester, but that's the union of the Menorah and the Beis Hamikdash, but it was the Sheva Midas, but they had they are, and even from Shemen, what Shemen is the union from Chochmah, was like brought down in the Likutei Torah at great length in last week's parasha. Edifar, says the Alter Rebbe, says the Rebbe, Mikol Mokim Mubchinas Richuch, Vezeu de Simcho Hu B'Yayin Davke. And therefore we say, generally speaking, that the union from Simcho is connected by B'Yayin. Like the Gemara brings down in Masechta Sukkatak here, it says, Ein Shira Ela Yayin, that's singing and Simcha, Begolui, well, that comes Davke from the minyan of wine. Lefisha Simcha, he me Hagilui. Well, yes, the Ika Hagilui, B'chinas Bina, Loch Ein Shayak Shom Simcha. And therefore it's Aim Habonim, Smeicha, the mother of the sons, is happy because it leads eventually to Bonim. And therefore the infant Bina is a Simcha which brings Toitah. And therefore it's connected with wine. So from that we see that both wine and Bina are connected with the union of Gilui. And that's why they're connected with Simcha, because the Portal says that without Gilui you can't really have Simcha. When is the mensch Samayach, when something is revealed itself to him, or something which is Behelem, or Bedakis, and it's impossible for the mensch to reach it. And it's in a van Richuk from him, then normally he doesn't feel Simcha in that. On the contrary, he feels a bittel of himself altogether, and almost a menucha betoichoi, that he can't reach that higher union and be masik or appreciate as a odom in the form of yesh for that union. Therefore he can't feel Simcha. But yayin, the tchuna of yayin is to bring forth in yonim into Gilui. And therefore the Gemara says in Masechta Sanhedrin that yayin say that if you put wine into something that comes out there, the secret, in other words, that the uniform wine brings to Gilui, and wine is Gilui.
If wine is Bina, and Bina is understanding, then why generally when people get drunk or intoxicated, do they tend to have less of an understanding?
Well, we're not talking about intoxication. Intoxication is already a dover bilti ratzui. And it's brought down in the Gemara, all sorts of taking that sugya about the inif and yain. There's a whole sugya in the Gemara in Sector Sanhedrin. Maybe it might be worthwhile for some people to learn that sugya. It's really tremendously. The Gemara is very, very tremendously using the uniform wine to get into a state of shikras. We're not talking about shikras. We're saying that when a mensch takes wine, the way he's supposed to take wine, then that causes a uniform Gilui HaSimcha. And the reason for why it causes Gilui HaSimcha is because it causes Beklal Gilui. Beklal brings out inyanim which are normally behelim, and therefore when he's a little bit under the influence of wine, or not shikah, then on the contrary all sorts of inyanim reveal themselves to him, like it's written by Achashverosh Lahavdil. Even though I say Lahavdil, the Gemara, the Medrash says it's Stam Achashverosh HaKodesh Baruch Hu. So it's written in Betuv Libei B'Yayin, when his heart was good with wine, so then all sorts of good things came out and everything. Wine is Indian from Gilui, and therefore Simcha and wine connect together, because Simcha is Megala, all the things that were previously Behelim. Or Beshikra, if a man just becomes a mavubal from the wine,
so Bina is more of not understanding a concept like in knowledge, but more just Gilui B'Chlaw, just a general Gilui of.
That's a tremendous Gilui. You can't feel any satisfaction in the usage of your mind until you have that Gilui. Until you get the Gilui of what was only an Akuda B'Chokhmah, then you're in a state of anxiety and unsettledness, and it's only when it comes out clearly Bina in the Havon of Asoga of the Moyach, then you're able to feel a infant satisfaction, and that satisfaction is simple. That's called simple. But the tachlis of the simcha is when it comes out later into the inyan for midas. You follow? When the understanding causes the midas to come out, or then aim habonim smeichor. Then once the mother has had her children, then that's a tremendously additional simcha. And it's even brought down in Chassidus that even if that usage of the moichin to bring out the midas also has to be simcha. In other words, if you're misbein and marish cheredik, and your whole use of his bonus is only too serious, then you won't get midas either, even though you may have a very profound bonus. But these bonus atzmei has to be b'simcha. Kein semavur. Behavi Makemis in Chassidus, and it's only through the inif and simcha that you get the emes agila, the midas. But once they come out, then there's a toisefes simcha that we feel reached the ultimate tachlis of the whole inyan, and that's also a simcha. We see from that all inyan and simcha are connected with Yetzia Me'ahelim into Gilui, and that produces the inyan of simcha. So wine has that ability. Wine's got that whole tuchuna to it. So the Rebbe says, the Rebbe, the fish simcha, beyayin darki, the fish simcha, he mea gilui. You follow, the whole inyan from simcha is darki from revelation. Reish tika gilui, who beginners bina. Both going to get to the seichel and going to get to the coming of the midas. The ike inyan of gilus through the medium of moyach habina. Ein shayach shom simcha, eim habonim, smeichel. Avu b'chiz chokma shir amayla mea gilui, ein shayach shom adayin simcha. Yeah, no, in chokma there's another inyan, but that's what's called oineg or tainu, or it's not to be confused with simcha. But when he gets that kuda atzmi, so there's a tremendous gila, what's called tainu. But that tainu is an aliyah klape maila where he just loses his kesher with the whole matiyah. You follow? The taki through the yerida into a matiyah of bina, that's when you get a infant simcha begola. So the Rebbe said, the Rebbe, a infant chochma is always not shaykh a infant simcha. No, on the contrary, there may be a very deep inyan there, but it's not simcha. So in other words, when a mensch benegeli atzmai, and he's got a inyan in chokmah, but he didn't get it into bina, he's not a how to call it, a simcha dika person, boys areg. I mean, he's not in a state of atzmus or forbidden. He's impatient, he can't wait till you get the gilu of the inyan b'moichai. Once he gets it b'moichai, then it can come further, and all that causes, and is emanated also by the tenua of simcha and gilu, which are really basically the same. They're the same. So therefore, in chokhmah you don't have that, and therefore you don't have the inyan simcha adai, which means that eventually there will come, but not from chokhmah atzmai, but chokhmah through being mislavish in bina. Omnom b'chag HaSukkot, however, in Chag HaSukkot it was a great chiddush. Hoyu manashchim gam mayim al gabi hamizbeach. They used to pour water also on the mizbeach into the shittim, to these two big sort of built nostrils at the top of the mizbeach. That's where they used to pour the wine the whole year. So here they used to pour wine first, and then they used to pour the inyan of the adamayim. V'hainu shegam b'chinas hachokma meir begilui. He said, here's a tremendous chiddush that through the avodah of tshuva b'yom kippurim, and through the ilui and the aliyah into such a high madrega, we reach the beer of the Yud Aleph Samamonim at a clipper and so on, the beetle of all the, what you might call the opponents. Then we're able to go up into the inif and pnimis v'atzmi sayin seif. So he said, then even chokhmah comes out into gilui. So he said, if chokhmah becomes gilui instead of its normal, then that's like what you might call lamayla miyah teva, or that's neged seder harogi, or neged teva ha'inyanim. And if chokhmah becomes gilui, and it becomes a inif gilui mamish to the makablim, so then we're going to see that the simcha takes on a much higher or more delicate aspect. Instead of feeling the simcha like normally, the more you are ayesh, being is how you are and you feel, and then you produce midas from that. For sure you feel simcha. With the gili of chokhmah, you're going to become somewhere because you're batil. so completely bottled to the Eivishter that the school only the Eivishter and you in a way that you don't really exist. Therefore it'll be a inyan from Simcha ad b'li dai mamish. May it be gilui v'lei b'chinas. Oh, sorry. I even ask him. V'hainu shegam b'chinas ha'chochma may it be gilui. So he said v'lei b'chinas ha'chochma da'atzilas bilvad. In other words, the chochma da'atzilas also comes b'golui. That's a very high madrega. That's mamish the beginning of the whole of Atzilus is the chochma. He said not only that comes b'golui, elagam b'chinas atzmus ha'chochma. V'hainu b'chinas ha'chochma da'atik. Like we learned here in the Maimon, that that's the inyan, which is the tzada sheni, as it were, of chochma stimua. Well, that's oila u'mizdabik. Chochma stimua is oila u'mizdabik in chochma da'atik. And the only way they can really be mizkala one to the other is through a paras, as we saw earlier in the Maimon, with the whole wondrous concept of the parasa between chochma da'atik and chochma stimua. So, and we saw that what was eating from chochma da'atik, seichel mufla. It is a seichel that it's mufla gamrei, but the seder eisha huachov, it can never come lidei gilui the seichel shebazeh. We go up into that madrega alidei the aliyah into atzmus through the tshuva of Yom Kippurim. So we bring down the inyan from chochma da'atik seichel mufla. V'gam l'mayla mizeh. Even higher than the inyan from chochma da'atik, which means mamish atzmus say v'zeu sha'chochma da'atzilas ha'ira b'golui. He said that's what the lower part of the matbea, as you might call it, the lower part of the coin, which is chochma da'atzilas, that was meya mamish b'gilui in biyah lefi shenimshech when this galeb b'chinas pnimis v'atzmus ayin say baruch hu shaloi b'chinas seidav adroge klau. In other words, that chochma is b'klau muvdal, as we said. Chochma is b'klau, the thing which is seen in is not gilui. And chochma da'atzilas b'vadai shelo shaykh legilui in olam as biyah. So if chochma was meya, it changed the whole way of acting, and it was meya b'golui. And it was meir b'golui in the elamus lamata mimenu, then that must be alideya nasinus koach elyin arbi mevern chochma v'kol elamus v'kulam b'yachad. And davke alideya that gilui elyin ma'oida that can force chochma, as it were, to go into gilui. So how was it that chochma aleph was b'golui, and not only chochma but chochma in its shirish ha'elyin was mamish able to oblige chochma da'atzilas to go into golui, because at the highest possible madrega of shirish ha'chochma, da'ainu erein seif mamish, even l'mayla mi'atik, well, that was begolui, and therefore it caused the inyan from chochma da'atzilas also to be meir lamata in biyah. And so once that happens, says the Rebbe, v'zeh inyan nisacha mayim gilui b'chinas chochma. Yeah, that gilui b'chinas chochma. That chochma, instead of being l'mayla me'ah, gilui comes into davke into gilui, b'sherish shoyer shoi, in the sherish of that gilui b'chinas atzmus ein sei parach, even higher than chochma da'atik, mamish atzmus himself, l'mayla mikola giluim. Well, that has peculiar to be, to change the whole Seder. That even chochma da'atik and chochma stimur, that they are meya b'golui, and then they actually cause chochma da'atzilas to be able to come down into biyah, hey peculiar Seder, hey peculiar inyan. So this says, when that happens, if that inyan occurs, that chochma itself becomes gilui, then we said every inyan of gilui is connected with simcha. If something comes begolui, Allah has come with something that normally is not begolui, something that you normally don't have beklau. If that comes into gilui, then b'vadai the simcha is gedela me'id. And so that was the Rebbe, v'lochein hoya simcha b'nisach hamayim sheme'acha v'lochein hoya simcha בניסח המים שמאחר שגם החוכמה מאה בגילוי, הרי שגם בזה, in the inyan from chochma, inyan ha-simcha, v'yadarabba. And on the contrary, hoya simcha gedela ve'atzuma me'ui. became a tremendous inyan from Simcha, Shara Hagilu hu naila ma'oid ba'ein areich legabe Hagilu de kol hashana. Because the Gilu at that moment is incomparably higher and absolutely elevated compared to the Gilu it was the whole year. But you said it was a tremendous Simcha. The Achsidim v'Anshi Maisa, or the people of Achsidim and Anshi Maisa. So it's Mavur and other Jewish Chassidus. Chassidim means people that their Indian is oyer, their Indian is Gilu oyer. Now the Chachomim Gedolim are people Batil. To the oyer Erin and Anshi Maisa, that means people Mamshik hold Inyan Lamata into Elama, Hatachtin into Elama Maisa. Like the Alter Rebbe brings over there in Geras HaKodesh, in Sivan Hey, the Alter Rebbe brings near the end that there are two Sugei Neshamas B'Yisrael. In other words, that the Talmidei Chachamim she'oishkim roiv yemeihem b'chokmas atar b'Torah b'chokma. And then he says that there are Anshe Chesed, Anshe Gemilus Chesed, Anshe Inyonim. What Ike Inyonim is the Maisa B'Poel. And on the contrary, they bring down the tremendous amshocha of the how they call it, the Talmidei Chachamim. But what their Ike Gilu is in Chochman, in Yonim Laila, the Anshe Maisa bring it down into Gilu. So there's Mavur over there. So the same thing here, that you can't have just the Hasidim on their own. You have to have the Hasidim and the Anshe Maisa. But nowadays, if you want to be a Chassid, you've got to be a Chassid and a Ish Maisa. You can't just say that there's two different types of people. I'm from the Hasidim, I don't have anything to do with the Maisa. If you say that, then you're not a Chassid, you're not an Ish Maisa. You have to say, I'm a Chassid, but I got also to do with the Inyan from Maisa. I also got to do with the Inyan from Pe'ula, B'Teicha Oilam. That's what the Rebbe demanded of us. And the Rebbe demanded of Kol Echad V'Echad Mia Chasidim and Kol Echad V'Echad M'Yisrael. And therefore we see that there's these two types of people, the Chasidim and the Anshi Maisa, and both of them were Marachtim Lifneihem Avukei Shel. That they were dancing in front of all the other people that came to watch, like it's brought in the Gemara. They were dancing in front of them with, how do you call it, torches, burning torches of light. In other words, avuka is a lot of light. How do you call it, a burning torch? That's called an avuka. Mashikin aner is a little, in the Lashon of the Gemara, aner is a candle. And it's written over there in the Mishnah that they used to, how do you call it, that the great Chachomim used to juggle with the avukes. Some of them used to juggle with 4, and some of them used to juggle with 8. Yeah. And in the Hemshech of Eta, the Rebbe's Mazda over there, what's the difference between 4 and 8? There's 4 avukes, and some of them used to juggle with 8 avukes. That's quite a bit of work. So the Rebbe says that Abba avukes, or is it the Keneged the Abba Isis, the Shem Havaya, over there in the Hemshech, if I'm not, das ist steht dort, it's Keneged the Abba Isis, the Shem Havaya, and he compares it to what's brought in the Basi Lagani, that's the Indian of Istalik, you call it the Kutshabrichu B'chul Hu Almin. But that's a Gilu, which is Shaykh to the Ayumus is Behilim. And Ali de Avukis comes Begolil. But then he says the 8, he said that's already connected Liasid Lovid. That's already there for Mashiach. What's going on? It's brought down that Yitzchak Avinu, he's going to be Ika of the Ovis, Liasid, and Yitzchak is Begematria Ches Pomim. The Shem Havai, you had it in your mind from Hanukkah over there. Seen it from the Ches Pomim. Shem Havai, bring to Rebbe Hashabbat that those Chachomim that they were juggling with 8, or their Inyan was the Gilu of the Eir Shal Mashiach. But they bring the Dot in Etra. And he says that that's the Inyan of Ches Pomim Havai, or Yemol Dotayin, the Inyan from Bitlu, or Elam is Lagamri, to the Elakus, even more than the Stalik, according to Kutshi B'chulu Almin, or Yemol Dotayin, Gilu Mamish ain't safe, Kipshut Elamata, and therefore they used to 2 sets. They used to, some with 4 and some with 8, and he said that everything is Betachlis Hadiyah. That there is a tremendous gilui from the union of Moke Kola Giluim Atzmus Ein Seif, and that causes that even Chokmah can be begolui mamish. Chokmah ta'atzilas mamish begol. So you might say, well, what is what's for Simcha does? So the emphasis in is that why is it that the mensch, but even Kloli, finds it hard to find the Inyan von Simcha. Therefore the Rambam said the Inyan von Simcha is an avodah gedolah here. That's like the Rambam. We're going to get to Chag HaSukkos. It's right at the end of Hilchos Dalet Minim, rule of Minim, as they bring the Rambam. And he writes, says avodah gedolah. So some of them are forcing tight. What do you mean by avodah gedolah? That's a great thing, but it's an avodah gedolah. It's a big thing to be able to be holding by emes simcha. How was? Because b'derech klal the mentions he's a yes. You understand? Every inyan which comes, he tries to touch it to his own being, and then he can be v'simcha. Yeah, you see, well, this is a tremendous inyan. This is being made b'golui, and this is great for me, and therefore he's b'simcha. Over at a tekosha simcha, aim habonim. Shmeichel. Aber so Kosovo, it's limited somewhat, say by the Seder Shtalshus of Pina, and say by the Etzemina, what he still ever was a Matthias. You know, he still ever say yes, and the far is Makabel the Simcha, and he understands what's the Inyan of Simcha. This is a tremendous Inyan, and then he begins to cough himself with the Simcha. But the Simcha from Mayim, or does it Inyan from Chokmah, doesn't have any time begolui of a cloud. Which means that there's no wall, there's not even a machitza, dako, cloud between the Adam and the infant Elikus. He and Elikus just joined together because he's bottled be'etzim matziyusay. If he bottles, he's bottled be'etzim matziyusay, then the Elikus is just mayor into him directly, and he doesn't really feel it, or he's not really aware of the fact that he's taking Elikus. He's just bottled completely in Elikus. And since Elikus is tachlis in Yasima, the Eivish is Oiz v'ched v'bim koimoy, the Amit is in it, and Atzmus Ein Seif, there's only Simcha there, it's not saying anything else. Therefore the Simcha is just bleak rule. The Simcha is mitzad the Elikus, not mitzad the Makabel. It's not his Simcha. Now this is the Simcha from Elikus. Therefore he's b'Simcha, v'kol oifanov, v'kol inyanov, even when he's just completely, utterly bottled by Matthias, therefore his whole being is just Misameah, b'Simcha, immediately, he's taking the Simcha and he's touching it out to himself, but he's just completely not there in a way, and the Simcha just sweeps him up into its tremendous power. And therefore it's called Mayim, because Mayim doesn't have any normal time or any normal Matthias. It's a Tova Bilti Kilo, it's a Makabel Bilvad Mayim. And therefore, those are what's written here. Those are as what you might call the secret. And those are the pitch line benegir to this whole Simcha in Nisuch HaMayim. And therefore it was a Simcha Gedolah Vatzuma, and it was only shot to people who could reach that bittul. They used to actually do it. Everybody else used to stand and watch it. Doubtless people clapped and they also danced and but Be'ikah they came to watch, as it were, to observe and to take limud from that Simcha. But the expression of the Simcha was only they people that could reach that bittul. And therefore what they did, like the Rebbe said, there was mechuvan to the highest inyanim, even to the inyan of Gilui Oram HaMashiach. And therefore said the Rebbe, they were maraktim lifneihem, in front of all the other people, ba'avuki shel oyer, da'ainu gilu b'chinas oyer shel amayla b'chinas mayim. What did we learn before? We learned there was oyer, mayim, and Rakia. And then we saw that there was a Inyan for in Mayim Gufa, there were two levels. And we saw there was really one level of Mayim, which was really oil. And you remember Chochmah Tes? So that's an Inyan which is very high, Maila, it's really in the Madrega of an oil, even though it's Mayim. It's in the Madrega of an Kesser, but it's still linked somewhat with the Inyan from Chochmah Tes. Stimora. And that was the Rebbe, or that's the Indian from Mayim, the Heinum, Kines Mayim, Hoel Yoinim, Shalamailami, so we saw there was Mayim Tak to Indian, but that's the Mayim Shiyodu Lamata, but the Mayim El Yoinim, that's the Indian from Chachma, how it is, moved out from Seder Ish, Taushels altogether. The Alzer Omru, or rather, it's a pasuk in Yeshaya Novi, Usha'avte Mayim Besosein, that you should draw out water with simcha. To Mayim, who Besosein with simcha, Lefishe Meir Gilui, Veshoyra Sham Shocher, he may mine Haya Shua. It's from a Zah level, which is literally from the well springs of the Indian of Yeshua, may mine Hayeshua. My mother said, the Rebbe, that must indicate this Madrega, Ashmius Peyosa, that is the shurish of this whole Amshocha. Therefore, he says, was it attached to me, Mainei Hayeshua? He said, that's the Indian of Bechinas Mokir Hayeshua. Mainei Hayeshua indicates the concept of Mokir of salvation, which a Mokir of Yeshua. Mayon is an infant. Mokir, it's like the source from whence everything comes. Mayon is the from water. And now we're connecting this with the Indian of the Mokir, of the highest Madrega water, and he calls that Yeshua. The Hina, he says, Indian Yeshua, Shayach, Kasher, Yesh Menagid. When do you need a Yeshua? When there's an opposing force, that they call an opponent. Or Strichim Yeshua. V'hainu b'chinas malchus, the raglei yerodes chulu. He doesn't say the rest of the pasuk, but sitting in the pasuk, raglei yerodes moves. The Rachman in Atlanta, her feet go down into the level of Rachma Hepach HaChayim. Yestricha Yeshua. Akamesh Kosev Koish Yeshua's Esor. And it's well known that Koish is the Indian from Malchus. Malchus is called a Koish. I will elevate the Koish of Yeshua's, because Malchus needs a Indian from Yeshua's. So what's the Indian from Raglea Yerodis Moves? What it does? It's common in cities that the Rebbeim often bring that pasuk, they just say Raglea Yerodis, they don't like to use the word, which is the Hemshech for them. Whereas a pasuk in the first chapters of Mishlei, Perikei, in Mishlei, over there, the Indian from Chochma, Zatel, he talks to the man. Like we had a dugma that wasn't yesterday, I don't know, maybe I get confused sometimes, where we had it. We had a dugma from them, how the Indian from Chochma, Zatel, talks to the mansion. He says what it represents and pleads with him to devote itself to. And then it says, well, if you devote yourself to what he calls over there, to false kaivas, to false things which present themselves. And, this is really, you can't miss on this. And then what happens is that the man sees it's all just a lot of bitter inyonim, and they lead him down into who knows what. And therefore he says that Isha Zora, what he calls over, that strange foreign woman, that's what he calls the Inif and Eipach Chokma Satera. He says, Raglea Yerodes Moves. That if you follow after her, then you fall into Rachman in Itlan, in the Hepach HaChaim. So what's it got to do with Indian from Malchus? Because one on that Malchus is called Isha. The Indian from Malchus is what we call Nukva al Pi Kabbalah, and Malchus is the shurish of the Ashpur into Biyah, and Davke Alidei Ribuit Tzimtzumim in the Ashpur from Malchus Davke, it can be a unique to the Klippus and to the Chitonium. In other words, the Raglea, the final aspects of Malchus, or they go down even into the Indian of Yenikala Klippus or the Chitonium. And that's a pshat Raglea Yerodes. And the Farah, the meaning from Malchus, Kaviyoho needs a Shua. The Indian from Malchus needs to be literally saved, because Davki in the Hashpur and the leader of Malchus, it can be the senior from Yenikala. And Rafah says, the Davki Malchus, she needs that Indian of Yeshua. And that's what we say by Abdullah, Koish Yeshua's Esor. Yeah, that kois is the inyan for Malchus, because Malchus is the inyan for Kosses or Makabo, and that's what the inyan for Malchus is. That we literally pour all the Ashpoya into the Malchus, but then the whole inyan for Malchus is it gives forth the Akos gives forth to something else. A matter of kois literally pours all the Ashpoya down into Biyah. And that's the inyan for now. I have to lift up the kois HaYeshuas. I have to lift up Malchus into a madrega of Yeshua. Because Malchus Tavki needs the inyan of the. That's what we're saying on Motzei Shabbos. Kois Yeshua's Esor. Now we're taking the Ashpoya from Shabbos. Well, we can bring our Yeshua into all the inyanim from Malchus, and that's what we say. All those psukim there, Shema Yeshua, Alam Chabil Chesel Cheselo, Shema Shia Hamelach Yameinu. We say all sorts of psukim of Yeshua by Havdalah. And I said, Mamela Yeshua. I'm sorry, maybe it's Amnon Inyan Mainai HaYeshua. Of it is very shoyrish and the mokeh of the whole Yeshua. Hainu b'chinas ha-mokeh shemishom nimshak mamela HaYeshua. Koish Yeshua says, so the Taisha gotta have a pu'ula, I gotta elevate Malchus, I gotta protect it, I gotta do this, I gotta be mamshich a higher earth to drive away the chitzonium. He said, upon Sukkot, you get to the Mayanei HaYeshua. You get to the mokeh of all the inyanim of Yeshua, and he said, therefore, the inyan of the Yeshua is b'derech mamela. Hu gilui b'chinas atzmos ein seif, shemishom nimshach HaYeshua. And if you get that high, then the Yeshua is just b'derech mamela. In the fire, he said, we say that on the Nisach HaMayim, Shabtim Mayim B'sozim Mainei HaYeshua. It's not Koish Yeshua, it's Esor. It's saying from Mainei HaYeshua, all the chlippers and all the sitrach and all, just become bottled b'derech mamela, automatically. And how much more so by the inyan for Shmini Atzeres and Simchas Torah. Well, that's what he brings in as the posik to begin with. That's why Laman Das Kol Amei Ha'oret. Well, we say that at the end of the Hakofis, you know that Laman Das Kol Amei Ha'oret. Hashem Elokim Einoi. This is the beetle legamri from all the clippings. V'chulu Kiyadua Oma Furutzam. B'chsidus V'kola Inyonim V'kola Keinai. Their fathers, even the famous Sipur Tov. Can't have koyach in Zman for the other Sipurim up. Well, I see everybody gave up very easily, so we can go further. It seems we're very interested in the whole Sipur. So Rebbe said the Rebbe that the inyan is Nimshach Mamela HaYeshua, who gilib b'chinas atzmos ein seif baruch hu shemishom nimshach HaYeshua. Hainu, how do you get that Yeshua? Alidei abiru da'anan ha'keteirus d'yom ha'kippurim. Yes, so alidei atshuva mi'umkeda. We saw that that's the koyach in the keteirus, in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, that it's mavara, and we saw it wasn't just the inyan from biru stam, but it was inyan from biru legamri, from all the inyan HaKlippos. Or through that you come to the shoyrish u'mokeh of the inyan HaYeshua. It's only the Yom Kippur still l'mayla. Aliyim Chageinu, it comes out into Gilui. So therefore the Rebbe Kamei Kain Azu b'simcha de Nisach HaMayim. Through the inyan for Nisach HaMayim shelo yis'arev zo b'simcha, so that there can't be any undesirable thing should mix into the simcha. But does it the inyan of zor means something which is foreign and strange, it doesn't belong in the simcha. The Hainu the inyan from Klippos v'sitra achro, anything improper, anything which is not mamish, the highest skill, if it ain't safe, it's not shaykh in that simcha. Lo shaykh per se. Yesh lo yisareb zor b'simchason, liyesh ha-simcha, he may agilui the b'chinas atzmos ein seif. Since this simcha is coming from even higher than the inyan from chokhmah da'atik, no mamish from atzmos ein seif, therefore mamela lo yeh b'zeh taruvet zores. There won't be any mixtures of anything unpleasant or improper. The hainu the inyan from yanika lechit, the teiniyim yeh chas v'sholem. You don't have to make any effort. All you have to do is dance in the Nischamayim to bring out all the inyonim, and there'll be a Yeshua. All the inyonim of Yeshua just come how do you call it, automatically, as it were, of their own self, and everything just falls away. Any inyan of Nasinas Mokim to the Liumas Ze Edifa. That's what he says at the inyan of Loi Yisarev Zar. And that's what there's another pasuk which is brought down. When you get to the inyan of Nisachamay and Ayin Tosim Vastera, and that is Yu L'chol Levadecha V'Ein L'Zodim Itoch. All this will be only for you, and there won't be any strange peoples or any strange inyanim together with you. In other words, there won't be any taruvas of anything bilti kedusha in the whole inyan of the gewaldige simcha, because it's a gilui from Azar Madrege, which just causes a beetle in anything which might oppose kedusha, just b'derech ma'ila. And that's pretty amazing formula. The simcha from this chamayim, like you went go, it's a manantike zah. But just on the day that simcha, everything just became bottled, and only a Kutchabricho and the Yidden and everybody together, man, it you l'chol levadecha v'ein l'zodim ito. And the fair, it's one of the famous sikha which occurs in Lakuti Diburim from the Friedrich Rebbe. Well, he brings over there that he was making a coffers in the year that, if I'm not mistaken, was Tzaddik. Well, I think it was Samech Tes, I'm not sure. In Poland, in Warsaw, and the Rebbe said that he's very sorry, but they're going to go now coffers, and he said, this is my coffers. And he said, anybody who doesn't keep Shabbos, or doesn't put on tefillin, or doesn't keep Taras HaMishpacha, shouldn't be here when we're actually making their coffers. At least they thought. He warned people not to stupen zu charayin. He said, because by the hakofas, if it'll be a tarei v'sar, it mightn't be good for them. I say that. Philly the Gemara. So, Pili Plosh, ain't Kamoyo, or they say that. So, anybody left a question? I don't know who. Anyway, the Rebbe is sort of warned before he began. He said, because you will be bothered as mine hakofas, it's pretty kind of. Yeah. And so the Rebbe said, the Rebbe said, if you don't want to leave. Yes, so was it the 80? You have to be makabel on yourself now. Well, those three in Yonim. Hachas Tefillin, Shmiras Shabbos, and Shmiras Taras HaMishpacha. He said, if people will be makabel on themselves, for emes, then they can stay. They said that. So that's a very fascinating idiom. But I can see that everybody is really very fascinated by all these inyonim. So we can go further. He said, all of this was dafki, but sukish, shezah gilui. Like we said, bakesa, but then it comes, liyim chageinu. He said, that was dafki on the Chag HaSukkos, but everything came, li'acha ha-teshuva diyom after that tremendous aliyah, into Mamish Pnimis Vatzman saying, say, Validei, Chua, Miyom Kedaliba, then you bring it all down, but Begalui, into Yom Char, Gainu. So, Ushaftem Mayim B'Shose, Shemishom, Hoyu Shoyavim Rocha, Kojiv, let's see Yerushalmi, Tesis brings at the beginning of Pirik in Masechta Sukkah, Tesis brings Yerushalmi, that they used to be Shoyavim Rocha, Kojiv together with the water. They drew the water, they would also be drawing Ruach HaKodesh. So there was a Shaito of Ruach HaKodesh. So he says, Hine, Shoyerish Ruach HaKodesh Ulamayla Misherish HaNavuah. He said, the Indian from Ruach HaKodesh is Lamayla Minavuah. Hagam de Begiluim in Revelations, in other words, the earth, how they come down into Gilui, Navuah Gavoya Yisa. Yeah, Navuah is greater. A Novi says much more powerful things. He does much more, he experiences much more amazing Giluim than what a Baal Ruach HaKodesh does. However, he said the truth is that the Inyan from Ruach HaKodesh B'Shoresh is Gavoya Yesa, but in Giluim, Nevuah is Gavoya Yesa. V'lochein, Achar Shenifsach HaNevuah, Nisha Ruach HaKodesh. In other words, after Nevuah went, because the world couldn't take Nevuah anymore because it was so high, nonetheless Ruach HaKodesh still remained, but that would tend to indicate that Ruach HaKodesh is Lamata Nevuah. So the Rebbe said, yeah, it's only Lamata Nevuah in the Giluim. In the Giluim, right, it's Lamata Nevuah. Mikol Mokim, B'Shoresh, Ruach HaKodesh Lamayla, Yesa. That in the Inyan from Shoresh Advarim, then Ruach HaKodesh is Lamayla, Yesa. I'll soon explain what's the difference. V'aynu the Shoresh HaNevuah, U'mechinas Bina, Shemeir b'mechinas Neitzach v'Hoi. V'Shoresh Ruach HaKodesh, U'mechinas Chochma. So what does it do? One of the ties of Ruach HaKodesh, is Lamayla Mi'inyan Nevuah. So the Rebbe says that that's in Shoresh Advarim. But in Giluim, Nevuah is greater than the Inyan from Ruach HaKodesh. So what's the Inyan from Ruach HaKodesh? Eitzah, what's the Pirush? Ruach HaKodesh. So it's brought down in a famous Maimon from the Alter Rebbe. It's in the book, in the famous Sefer Yisalek Liozna. If I'm not mistaken, Mamish in the first Maimon. In another place, it's brought down. And the Alter Rebbe also the same thing. And that is, that the Alter Rebbe says that a Baal Ruach HaKodesh is somebody that he says that kach v'kach, of it could be that Ba'isa Hazman, he doesn't really know why. He just knows that that's the way it is. In other words, he doesn't necessarily see or even know all the reasons why it is. He just knows that kach v'kach tzadik li'os, or even that kach v'kach may be he doesn't really know all the inyanim b'shvil ma'al. Novi, a Nevuah, if a man says Nevuah, he sees the whole inyan be'oros alyenim, and we'll soon see in a minute what he says about the inyan and Gilei Nevuah. And therefore, the Alter Rebbe writes that Yochel Yes Shebal Ruach HaKodesh Yema Al Yelech Al Yaseh Dova Ploin. Somebody asked him, and he said, no, don't go there or don't do it. But Boisa HaRege Eni Yodeh Lama Avo Yodeh Hu Ne'amana Shelo Yelech V'lo Yaseh. In other words, he just knows that that's the way it's got to be. He doesn't have all the Giluim Boisa HaRege. And if there's come dugmois from our Rebbeim B'meshech HaShonim, that's chutz mi'inyan HaNevuah shehoyeleh, because it's brought down, it's mashma the inyan HaNevuah wasn't actually the whole time. Yeah, Ruach HaKodesh by the Alter Rebbe, by the Middle Rebbe, I think it is, that Samech Tes said about himself that he's a little bit different, that he also has a Ruach HaKodesh, but he doesn't have it the whole time. He said that Manshfer, meaning the Middle Rebbe, he had it the whole time. The Alter Rebbe, Sivan. So, however, what is the dugma? There's a famous story that happened with the Rebbe Marash. So here we come down the ladder, we hit the Rebbe Marash. You know the story?
Titanic?
F?
The one with the Titanic?
F?
The ship, the Titanic.
Jealous?
The Titanic, the sailing ship.
No, that was a Rebbe Rashab.
Oh, Rashab.
That's also a dugma. A fair what? But I'm trying to get in a bit earlier. I'm getting in a generation earlier. This is the Rebbe Marash. And once the Rebbe Marash was supposed to go on a journey to a certain place, and he had to go to the train station and get a train. He comes in, it was a hot day and everything, they were waiting for the train to come so they get the Rebbe out of the heat, it was all so stuffy and hot in the train station. And the Rebbe the Rebbe Marash was just sitting there, and after a while he stopped talking, he didn't say anything, he just sat there and he was just sort of, kilo, he's breathing in deep inyanim, and there he was. So all of a sudden the train comes along, it was all Buddha said, it is the train, and they say, come on Rebbe, we're getting on the train, All of a sudden they take a look and the Rebbe is still sitting there and he's sort of looking at it. He said, Rebbe, the train's here, the Rebbe can't do anything with it, he can't run and grab hold of him or something. What's going to So he said, Rebbe, the train is here, get on the train, and the Rebbe Marshall just looking up. So they bring the train station master, the guy, he comes again. He says, Rabina, he said, this is your train, hello, Rabina. He tries to wake him up. The Rebbe Marshall just sitting there looking up into the train just goes off. The Rebbe is still sitting. It's another hour and a half till the next train. And as it was hard sitting there in the heat with the whole thing. So sitting there always to see and I don't know what to do. Anyway, the Rebbe Marshall is sitting there the whole time. He's just sort of So after a short while, not far down the line, there was this terrible train crash. This train met up with some other train and was going to run off the lines. It was a terrible tragedy, terrible thing. People were killed. One basement was a event. It's a train station, Mesa, when he hit it there, he picked up on this thing, whatever they had in those days, he picked up or something. So nice, he was just absolutely, he was a seer. He understood why this Rabina didn't want to get on didn't want to get on the train. So he runs up to the Rebbe Marash and he says, Rabina, he said, you must have known that was going to happen, and that's why you didn't get on the train. So he said, why didn't you tell us? We would have stopped the train. He said, why didn't you tell us that was going to happen? So the Rebbe Marash looked at him all of a sudden. The Rebbe Marash came out of his Vegas. He looked at him and he said, believe me, he said, I didn't know what was going to happen. I just knew that I and my Anoshim shouldn't get on that train. I just knew that train is not for me. It's not for my people. There wasn't any of that. And remember, we see from that Ruach HaKodesh is you don't necessarily know everything. You just know. And that's what the Meiser of Titanic, the same thing. The Rebbe Rashab said the same thing. They asked this question, as you get on the Titanic, they showed the Perek to the Rebbe Rashab. The Rebbe Rashab looked at it and he made a sort of a negative sign like that. And said, the guy was, he thought the Rebbe didn't, look at it carefully, maybe didn't explain it so properly. And he gave it another Perek, the Rebbe took a look at it, and the Rebbe said, I don't understand what he wants of me. He said, I've already said, ich hab schon gesagt meins. I already said mine. He didn't say that. He went like that. So the guy came with the Samech. He comes out to the guy and he says, listen here. He said, if I were you, he said, in Yiddish, chirp as a hobbit. You just put yourself away from this whole thing. Don't have anything to do with it. You're playing with fire now. And then the next thing they hit this, unbelievable. So later, this guy comes into the Rebbe Rashab later, a long time later, he had some reason to be Af Yechidah. Right? And he said to the Rebbe Rashab, he's very sorry that he nudged it. He asked the second time. Let's talk in the study. I don't know the second time. He said he wants to ask the Rebbe Mechila, but he couldn't figure it. And he said, why didn't the Rebbe tell me? And then I would have known for sure that I should get on that ship. So the Rebbe said, glaub mir, ich hab nicht gewusst, was das sein mit dem Schiff. Ich hab nur gewusst, dass du tust nicht vorne. And then they put here. And then he said, and ich weiß eine zweite Sache, that oi uns sagen mir, darf man folgen. That if we say, then you have to obey.
Didn't say it.
That's what the Rebbe Rashab said. He said, oi uns sagen mir, is darf man folgen.
Rebbe Rashab didn't say anything.
What do you mean didn't say anything?
He didn't say anything.
What are you talking about? Rebbe Shragas, but you've gone it. What are you? I thought you were a chassid of something. You're lost in Balbatishkeit. You was it with the butter. The Rebbe Shab takes a look at it and makes a sign like that. This is again Allah Ilamas. The Rebbe never used to do anything without I mean, his eyes just peered. It's written the Baal Shem Tov could see 400 parts ahead of him. You know what that means? It's put down in the Maimon Song of Bob. Once upon a time in the old days, if you would have said that by a Siddish Bavarian, they were taken terribly in the mikveh. We once did it, you know, in the old years, many, many years ago. We had a bacher by the Fabringen, and he started to nudge you about something. He wasn't pleased with something I was saying the whole time. He kept, so in the end, I didn't say it, but I just said, listen, we got to do something with this guy. And before I knew what was happening, it was already daytime. Otherwise, they couldn't have taken it. With Mamish daytime, we'd bring the whole night. It was already day, and these guys just picked him up. And then they went over to some mikveh, I don't know what, maybe, I don't know if I had a mikveh for men at that point. I don't know, but anyway, they got into the mikveh and they tossed him in the mikveh, the way he should. With his clothes, with everything. Just before I left the car, just before I drove away, I saw him coming. And my man says that das is even Ruach HaKodesh, you battle on him, this is Ruach HaKodesh. Ruach HaKodesh, the Rebbe goes like that, you don't do it. And my man says the Rebbe, that's really, it looks to be lower, but the Shoresh is really higher. The Shoresh HaNevuah, Mechinas Bina, Shemaya, Mechinas Neitavai, that's brought down in the Gels HaKodesh, in chapter 19, not chapter 20, but chapter 19, and the Alter Rebbe must know that the difference between Nevuah and Chochmah Stam, not the Inyan from Ruach HaKodesh. And he says that the Inyan from Nevuah is our Sfira Sabina is Meir in nature for Hoid da Tzilas. In other words, the Ha'ora from Bina, which is Meir in nature for Hoid, the Shoresh Ruach HaKodesh, Mechinas Chochmah, aber Mamish Ruach HaKodesh, well, that's from Chochmah. And that's why it comes in such a hidden way. It looks as if he's sort of, but he's Mami's bullseye, Mami's, he knows exactly what's going on, but he doesn't. He makes out as if he does. It's sort of he sort of says, all he knows is that. And Mamela says, the Rebbe, that comes from the Inyan from Chochmah Datzilus. V'loch ein David HaMelech Ha'avos Sholem, lo yehoya Novi. This is a pillar. The Rebbe says that David HaMelech wasn't a Novi. Ki im hoya Mocher Ruach HaKodesh. David HaMelech was Mocher Ruach HaKodesh. And if I brought in Sifrei HaKabbalah, a state of Lashon, it's brought in Chassidus, that David HaMelech was Rabbon Shukol Baalei Ruach HaKodesh. So they said, David HaMelech was the Rav of all the Baalei Ruach HaKodesh. As I state, in many countries, the David HaMelech wasn't even Novi, even though it's mashma in certain places, Ulai David HaMelech was a Novi, but ain't the Ike Inyonah. Ike Inyonah from David HaMelech is Ruach HaKodesh, and therefore he said, that's the Indian, Mishum da Abba Yosad Barata. That means that the Abba Chochmah founded Yosad. Barata is Malchus. Barata is the Indian from Bas. In Aramic, that Malchus founds and establishes the Indian of, how do you call it, Malchus. David HaMelech is Indian from Malchus. He's the Indian from Malchus, and therefore his Shoresh is really in Chochmah. And that's what's going on, that the Oishis Adibah really come from Chochmah, not from Bina. But the Shoresh of the Oishis Adibah is from Chochmah. Kemuvu in the Geras HaKodesh, in Tanya, Simon Hay. Look it over, you'll see the whole beer. And here's a pele, V'achia Hashileni, Shehoya Rabbi Shal Eliyahu, Shu Mochi Kol HaNaviim, Hoya Mi Beis Dino Shel David. There's a simmer that David is Hecher. You understand? David, he's the Al-Beit, and he's the king, and he had a Beis Din. On the Beis Din was Achia Hashileni. So Achia Hashileni was the Rebbe of Eliyahu Hanavi, and he was also the Rebbe of somebody else that you know. I don't know if you know him, but you know about him.
Let's see.
Very nice. Achia Hashileni, he was the Rebbe from the Baal Shem Tov. Oh, yes. Now comes the message from them. Yes. But Achia Hashileni, he was the Rebbe of the Baal Shem Tov. So he was only on, what do you call it? He was only on the Beis Din Shel David. Yes, even a David is Baal Ruach HaKodesh, he's higher than all the Navi. Thank you, mate. Gentlemen, so I did a tantalizing thing to you guys, but what can we do? I left you without finishing the last few lines of that. Yeah, the mine, man. So that's going to keep you all tense with you, I guess. What can I do? Is the only thing we do would be to daven Mariv quite a bit later, and I don't think that would be much pain. We shouting members of the Bezdin. The other members of the Bezdin. They would like.
And Chachma is